Welcome to Mindful Moments. Nourish your mind on the go. This audio uses AI narration to present our original book analysis. We're taking a deep dive into Coal River, a historical fiction novel by Ellen Marie Wiseman. This book takes us back to the early 1900s, to the tough world of Pennsylvania coal mining. And there's a mystery woven through it all. We meet Emma Malloy. She's returning to the coal town she escaped from as a kid, haunted by the death of her brother. Was it an accident, or is there something darker going on?
Wiseman really captures that mix of personal struggle and a harsh period in American history. It's not just a whodunit. The book explores exploitation, danger, the tough choices people had to make back then.
The book pulls you right in from the first page. You can practically smell the burning coal, that waste from the mines. It's more than just a description. It's like the smell is a character itself.
It's oppressive, showing how the coal industry weighed down on everyone, like the town is suffocating.
And Emma arrives in this tense place, forced to live with her aunt and uncle, the Shawcrosses, who resent her and her dead mother. Not the most welcoming homecoming. They're a product of that harsh Coal River life. It's all about survival. They're not just mean. They show how hard life was and how few options people had.
And then you have the breaker boys. These kids, barely old enough for school, working in dangerous conditions.
It's heartbreaking, especially when Wiseman introduces us to Nicholas, this young boy with black lung disease. His story shows how unfair the system was to these families. They know the risks, but they need to put food on the table.
Emma sees all this, and you could tell it bothers her, maybe even some survivor's guilt. It pushes her to start helping the miners and their families, even if it means stealing from her own aunt and uncle.
She's rebelling against the way things are, driven by empathy. She's starting to understand the power dynamics at play. It's not just about personal redemption anymore. She's challenging the whole system.
And that leads her to a big discovery. Remember Frank Bannister, the captain of the Coal and Iron Police. Well, he's not just some authority figure. He was one of the boys who tormented Emma's brother before his death. That ties the personal story into the bigger social conflict. Emma's search for the truth about her brother becomes part of the fight for justice for everyone.
And then things take a dark turn. Emma sees Hazard Flint, the mine owner, with Frank, and they're involved in a murder. Now she's in a tough spot. Staying silent seems like the only way to stay safe. But she also wants to expose the truth.
It's a classic dilemma. Does she risk her own life to speak up against these powerful men? Or does she stay quiet and become part of their crimes?
She decides to tell Clayton Ash, he's a miner who's trying to start a union, to fight for better working conditions. But trying to do the right thing backfires, and she ends up getting arrested and thrown in jail.
It just shows how dangerous it is to challenge those in power, even with good intentions. Sometimes the system works against you, leaving you feeling helpless and frustrated.
So Emma's locked up. Coal River is on the edge of boiling over, and that's where we'll pick up next time, with the aftermath of the tragedy that shakes Coal River to its core.
When that mine explodes, Coal River is thrown into pure chaos. It's just devastation everywhere. Families desperately looking for their loved ones in all the wreckage and fire.
I imagine that's when the deep divides in Coal River become even more obvious. The miners and their families are dealing with so much grief, while Hazard Flint, the mine owner, seems more worried about protecting his own interests than the human cost of this disaster.
It really shows you how power can twist your priorities. For the miners, it's about basic survival. But for someone like Flint, it's about control, holding on to his empire, no matter what tragedy happens.
So where does Emma fit into all of this? She's stuck in jail. Completely powerless, right?
You'd think so. But even from behind bars, Emma becomes a force for change. Remember those photos she took inside the breaker in the mine, showing the awful conditions? Those become her weapon.
The ones her uncle gave her to keep her busy.
Exactly. She manages to send those photos to the New York Times, along with a letter explaining what the miners are going through. It's a risky move, especially since she's still under suspicion for working with Clayton and Nellie.
It shows how much she's changed. She's not just reacting to what's happening around her anymore, she's shaping events, even if it means putting herself in danger.
It's an example of how one brave act can disrupt an unjust system. She's not just looking for personal redemption. She's become a voice for those who can't speak up for themselves.
And what happens when those photos get out? Does exposing the truth actually make a difference?
It changes everything. Publishing those photos creates public outrage. And Hazard Flint is finally forced to face the music. That wall of silence that protected him for so long is shattered.
What about Flint? Does he just break under the pressure?
With all that evidence and public condemnation, Flint confesses not only to the murder Emma witnessed, but to a bunch of crimes he committed against the people of Coal River. For years, he exploited them.
Wow, I wouldn't have expected him to have a change of heart.
It shows you the power of the truth. As painful as it might be, his confession might not erase the suffering, but it does open the door for justice.
So does his confession lead to any real changes? Do the working conditions get better?
Steps are taken to improve the lives of the miners, and finally, child labor laws are put in place. It's a victory, but it comes at a terrible price.
You're right, there's hope for the future. But there's no escaping the tragedy that happened. Clayton is badly hurt. Lives are lost, including Levi Flint, who Nally accidentally shoots during the chaos.
It shows how complicated seeking justice can be, even when things change for the better. The scars of the past remain.
What about Emma? How does she end up?
She's cleared of all charges and eventually finds love with Clayton. But even more importantly, she discovers her own strength and resilience. She started out seeking redemption, but she ends up playing a crucial role in making things fairer for the whole community.
It's a powerful message about personal growth and how acts of courage can have a ripple effect.
Absolutely. And even with all the darkness and loss, there are moments of hope. Things that remind us about the strength of the human spirit. Remember Francesca, the Italian woman whose twins were thought to be dead in the mine.
The one Emma was stealing to help.
Right. Well, her sons weren't killed in the explosion. They were among those breaker boys who ran away with the carnival. They survived.
That's amazing, like a small miracle in all the devastation.
It reinforces this idea that even in the darkest times, hope can survive. Things can unexpectedly turn around.
Wiseman gave us a lot to think about. A tragic ending with a glimmer of optimism. It sounds like the resolution of Coal River is both satisfying and thought-provoking.
It is, and there's so much more to explore, especially how Wiseman ties everything together at the end. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll unpack the resolution of Coal River and talk about its lasting impact.
So we left off talking about the ending of Coal River and how Wiseman brings together justice and loss, but also that glimmer of hope. Let's get into those final moments, see how everything comes together.
Hazard Flint's confession really stands out. It's not just him admitting he's guilty. You actually feel his remorse, like he's finally realizing the weight of what he's done.
He's definitely not that cold and calculating guy we saw earlier. What do you think causes that shift in him?
I think it's the undeniable truth of everything, made even stronger because everyone's watching. His whole image of power and respectability crumbles. He has to face the pain he caused to so many people.
But does confessing earn him forgiveness? Do the people of Coal River just accept his apology?
Forgiveness isn't that simple. There's still anger there, deep resentment for all the pain he caused. But there's also relief, a sense that justice has been served, even if it took a while.
What about Nally? He's the one who starts the shooting, driven by his own rage and trauma, which ultimately leads to the mine explosion. What happens to him?
Nally faces the consequences of his actions. He's hanged. But before that, he reveals something important. He says he acted alone, that Clayton didn't know about his plan to target Frank Bannister.
So Clayton's cleared of everything.
Yes. And that's huge for Emma. It takes away any doubt she had that the man she loves might have been involved in those violent acts.
So they can finally move on together, without that uncertainty hanging over them.
Exactly. They've been through so much tragedy, carrying the weight of the past, but this allows them to start a new chapter, one focused on love and healing.
And then there's Francesca, that grieving mother who represents the devastating impact of the mine. We find out her sons didn't actually die in the explosion. They ran away with the carnival. It's a surprise twist. That brings a little bit of hope to a pretty dark story.
It reminds us that even in the worst situations, amidst all the loss, there's a chance for things to get better, for unexpected miracles. It shows the strength of the human spirit, that stubborn hope that refuses to die out.
Wiseman could have easily ended the book on a tragic note, just focusing on the devastation of the mine collapse. But she brings in these moments of hope, these bits of redemption, reminding us that even when things are incredibly hard, the human spirit can survive, can find a way to rebuild and move forward.
It's a powerful message. Coal River isn't just a historical drama. It's a story about how complicated justice can be, the lasting power of hope, and what individual courage can achieve. It makes us think about facing injustice, fighting for what's right, and holding on to hope, even when things seem dark.
This deep dive into Coal River has been eye-opening. It shows how historical fiction can teach us about the past, but also make us reflect on the present. If you want to experience this gripping and thought-provoking story yourself, be sure to check out Coal River by Ellen Marie Wiseman. You can buy the book through the link in our show notes, and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into literature and history.
Thanks for listening.